Hey, you made it. It's almost a new year. You got through the holiday. You got to the end of the year. And I wonder, are you busy making plans? I wonder, are you busy making resolutions? I wonder, where are the resolutions coming from? Are they really yours or are they someone else's? And you think you're supposed to do it. Let's dive right in. So I'm going to start this one with a little story because I always get to a story, but I'm going to start this episode with a little story. But before I do, I want to congratulate you for making it to the end of this year. It was not an easy road for anybody, I don't think. It's been an up and down roller coaster of events and emotions and weather and natural disasters and catastrophes and all sorts of other things. And also hopefully in there, some love and some family and some warmth and some growth and things that you are noticing and being proud of yourself for. That is my wish for you. And on that note, we're going to get into the whole month of January talking about resolutions and rest as not only resolution, but rest as revolution. But for right now, on this 30th day of December 2024, we are going to talk about what the heck are you planning for next year and why? And if your answer is nothing, I'm okay with that too. And here's why. A million years ago, I don't know, I was in my 20s, I think. I worked for a multi-level marketing company selling cosmetics. It's an old one. I'm not ashamed of it. I'll tell you, it's Mary Kay Cosmetics. I don't know why I said multi-level marketing like it's some big mystery. I actually am really proud of my time with that company. I'm really proud of that company. I do not think they are quite as predatory and creepy as a lot of multi-level marketing companies are. And I honestly think they provide a great opportunity for a lot of women out there. I made a good deal of money. I learned a ton about skincare and makeup, and I actually really loved that job. It just didn't fit with the rest of my life, as I actually still am technically on the rolls as a consultant because I still use plenty of their stuff on my face. Anyway, I digress. I was part of that and really thought like this was the future for me. I was a mom of, I think only one at the time. And I was still teaching full time, but I thought like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to sell cosmetics and build a team and all of that stuff so that I can stay home with my babies and, amass great wealth and drive a pink Cadillac. I really thought that at the time. And as you probably have some idea of, multi-level marketing companies are really big on goals, and they're really big on reassessing your goals and SMART goals and all of the goals. I had so much training on goal setting and so much training on how to, create a plan and create a vision and all of those things. I made a lot of vision boards. I did a lot of vision casting. I did all of that stuff. And look, some of it stuck. I'm not poo-pooing it at all, but I am saying one of the things that I sort of learned about myself through the process of continually having meetings and sitting down and planning our next quarter and planning our next year and planning our thing was that I don't know if it's because I'm the youngest child. I don't know if it's because I was in effect an only child growing up because my siblings are so much older than I am. And I had a kind of not like a interesting relationship with my mother. I was a little bit more mature than I needed to be. I don't know what it is, but I have an almost visceral response to goal setting. At first, I thought, it's because I don't really look too far in the future because like some bad stuff has happened to me in my life. And so I never really like planned for too far ahead because it felt like I was going to jinx everything. That's not really it. And then I also thought maybe it's like the like defiant part of me that's like, I'm not gonna be beholden to these things. I'm not gonna say this is the thing so that I, have to do it 6 months from now if I don't feel like it anymore. I don't know what the reason is, but I really hated goal setting. I hated goal setting. I hated planning for them. I hated doing the smaller steps that go with the big step. It just felt really bad to me all the time. And so I kind of, when I got out of the multi-level marketing multi-level marketing company, I almost like was anti goal setting, was anti, any kind of like formal statement of what was next. 5 years, 3 years, 1 year, it didn't matter. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, this is really interesting because we know if you've ever listened to this podcast, if you've ever watched me on YouTube before, I have spent a significant amount of my adult life being educated toward a doctorate degree, but also in a bunch of different certifications. I'm trained as a doula. I'm trained as a holistic health coach. I'm trained as a yoga teacher. I'm trained as a meditation teacher. Not to mention, I have two master's degrees and a doctorate degree. So one would hardly look at my life and think that woman doesn't set goals. She doesn't make plans for herself. She doesn't know how to execute goals. She doesn't know how to execute the plans to get to her goal. You wouldn't really say that about me. And yet I don't formally have New Year's resolutions or quarterly goals or annual or 5-year visions or any of those things that I do as a matter of habit. And here's why. Because when I do, me, I tend toward self-flagellation. I could say, and it almost always, my goals when I was with the multi-level marketing company were always to make, bajillions of dollars. That was always the goal. It was always monetary. It was almost never tied to something that I really wanted. It was what I was being taught that I should want. Fast forward to when it was just me and myself and not a multi-level marketing, it was almost always physical. Lose weight, get in shape, exercise more, join the gym, you name it. It was almost always physical. And again, it was never tied to something that I personally wanted. I can remember one year thinking, what I really love is clothes, and I want to be able to fit in certain clothes. And so that's why I'm going to do the thing. And I thought, oh, this is going to work this time because I've made it something that's important to me. Clothes are important to me and I want to fit in clothes. And even though that's shallow and I don't really want to admit to anybody, that's why my goal is my goal. That's my goal. And so it's going to work this time. It didn't work. Maybe I lost weight. I don't know. But my point is, I never executed in the way that you were supposed to on the SMART goal sheet. I never executed the goals. I never executed the New Year's resolutions for very long because I never felt very strongly about any of them. They were all written or all taken on or all whatever. And I've gone through every derivation. I've had my word of the year. I've had the vision board. I've sat and done a tarot reading. Like, I've tried it all, friends. I've tried it all. And every time it never works fully because I don't tie it to me. It's either what I think I should want or what I think I'm supposed to, like, meaning if I was a good, responsible person, this is what I'm supposed to want, or it's what somebody else has. And I think I'll like myself better if I'm like that. This is super vulnerable for me to admit this because it gives you some insight into how hard I am on myself and how disconnected I was from myself for a really long time. And I'll tell you the switch. You would think the switch here. I'll tell you what you might think the switch is. Probably about 10 years ago, I read a book by Danielle Laporte that talked about attaching, I think this was her. Actually, I'm crediting her. I actually don't know for sure, but I think it was her. Attaching the way you feel to the goal. The way you want to feel. So instead of saying, I want to lose weight, saying, I want to feel this way, and I think I will get that feeling if I lose weight. I think I will get that feeling if I make $1 million. I think I will get that feeling if let's stick with make $1 million because I think that's going to make my next point valid. I've been an entrepreneur for a while, and 6 figures is always the big number. 6 figures. I'm going to make high 6 figures. That's what every training I've ever taken. That's what every coach I've ever had. That's what everything I've ever been part of, every group is high 6 figures. I never made high 6 figures in my business. I got close to 6 figures a few times. I got 6 figures a few times, but I never made high 6 figures. And I every year would be like, I'm a failure. Never really looking at like, why would I want to make high 6 figures? What does high 6 figures get me? Also, what does it even look like, high 6 figures? But that's a story for another day. When my New Year's resolutions were started to be tied to, how do I want to feel? And then what's the thing I can do to get there? That is, and then and only then is when I started having things that I actually did. And more importantly, when I stopped feeling really badly about myself if I decided to shift or pivot. I happen to think that 1 year is too long anyway. I happen to think if you say in 1 year, I want to be like this, and then you go back and do all those other little things, it gets really hard to maintain that if you don't tie it to the way you want to feel. So last year, 2020, end of 2023. Sorry. So technically, last year, the end of 2023, after years and years of saying, I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to join a gym, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I decided to sort of sneak back into the physical realm again. Because for a lot of years, I was just like, I'm not making a goal. I'm not making a New Year's resolution. I'm not talking about what I want from my body. I'm not talking about what I want from food. I'm not talking about what I want from weight. It's unhealthy. I'd had a really rough couple years of health problems, and I just didn't like myself very much. And more importantly, I didn't feel like myself. I didn't feel familiar to myself. And so I sat down and I decided, how do I want to feel a year from now? I want to feel like myself. Well, what does that mean? So a bunch of questions before I could even do any kind of goal setting or any kind of New Year's resolutions or any kind of anything. And when I was able to identify that, how do I want to feel in a year? Well, how am I going to get there? I know I'm not going to get there by shaming myself. I know I'm not going to get there by working out 6 days a week, because I know I don't work out 6 days a week. No matter how ironclad the plan, I am not going to the gym 6 days a week. I know that I don't really like to work out first thing in the morning. It's too early. I know that I don't really like to work out super late at night. I know that I don't really like to do this. But I know what I do like, which is the feeling I had after spin class, the feeling I had in yoga class, the feeling I had when I was doing spin and yoga regularly, the way that I felt in my body when those things were happening. Okay, how do I make that happen? That's an episode for another time. And I will talk about those goals and how I did all of that then. But I tell you that story to illustrate my point, which is if you are sitting down at the end of the year, if you're listening to this podcast on your walk, or you're listening on the bike, or you're listening, cleaning up dinner from the night before, or laying on the couch doing nothing, or maybe you're at work. It is a Monday. Maybe you're at work and you think it's New Year's resolution time. I need to make one. I want you to stop and ask yourself, number one, why? Why do you need to make one? What changes if you don't make a New Year's resolution? What changes if you do? And then if you're really dead set on making one, who are you making it for? Is it a resolution that you actually feel personally connected to? Or is it one that you think you're supposed to have, you think you should do, or you see other people do and it seems like the right call? If you get through all of those and you go, no, it's for me, then I want you to say, how do I want to feel when this thing happens? When I do this thing that is the goal, when I lose weight, when I work out, when I get organized, when I clean out the basement, whatever it is, whatever your New Year's resolution is, when I clean more regularly, whatever it is, how are you going to feel when you get there? And if you don't know what the resolution is, but you can identify how you want to feel, well, then backtrack it and say, well, what can I do that gets me to that feeling? When I set mine a year ago, I knew I wanted to feel more like myself, which then I had to identify meant strong and capable and healthy. It was no longer skinny or cute or even wearing nice clothes. That's a nice perk. I do like that part of it. But I couldn't tie it to that. I had to tie it to, how do I want to feel? Well, I want to feel like myself. Well, what does that mean? For me, that meant strong and capable, independent. I don't need to have my kids lifting things for me, stuff like that. That was my story. And then once I figured out and identified how I wanted to feel, then I went to, okay, well, what's that going to look like? How am I going to get there? It's going to require some weight loss. It's going to require some doctors, some answers from some doctors. It's going to require regular movement. I didn't really define movement. I didn't get too in the weeds on it. I just was like, I'm going to make an effort to do these things. And sometime this year, by the way, I also didn't give myself the, SMART goals, like end of time, because for me, those parameters make me feel bad about myself. If I say I'm going to work out 5 days a week and then I get to February and I'm only working out 2 days a week, I feel terrible. And I know that. And so not only do I want the goal to be realistic, but I also want it to be something that I'm not going to be ashamed of if I don't do it right away. So sometime in the year, I decided I was going to get these things done. I was going to feel more healthy. I was going to get back to my body. I was going to start moving more. And sure enough, all those things happened. And I believe it was because the decision didn't come from outside. It didn't come from comparing myself to other people. It didn't come from what I thought I was supposed to do or should do or what the world was telling me I was supposed to do. It wasn't some fabulous at 50 goal that I hear all over social media. You're supposed to be fabulous at 50. I didn't have time for that. I don't have the energy for that. And then by default, maybe I got to be fabulous at 50 because I said, here's what I really want. Here's what's going to make me feel better. And it wasn't even a resolution in the purest form of like a thing I decided and I told the world about. I didn't get the bracelet with the word on it. I didn't do any of those things. And again, I'm not mocking any of that. If that works for you, awesome. Like I have a friend who has a new word every year and she has like a stack of bracelets on her arm. And I think it's amazing because she does the things and that's awesome. That's not who I am. And what I want for you is to do the thing that's you and not what you see other people doing or looks like, oh, I'd like that to be me. I'd like to be a kind of person who works out 6 days a week, but I don't want to feel bad about myself when I don't either. So what's going to be the thing that you not only want, but how are you going to feel when it happens? Or how do you want to feel? Those are the things to identify first, or you could just scrap the resolution thing altogether and just wake up every morning and enjoy your day, or try your best to enjoy your day, or try your best to get through the day to the end of the day. My point in all of this is to say, I hope for you this season that you don't get caught up in the frenzy and the furor to remake yourself or redo yourself or resolve to fix something that's wrong, because there's nothing wrong. You're perfect. You're perfect exactly as you are. And the more you get to embrace that, the better you're going to feel. So how do you want to feel this year? I'm resolved to get there. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being a part of this community. And I can't wait to share with you all of the amazing stuff we have going forward in 2025. Check out our YouTube channel if you haven't yet. If you're listening to this on our podcast, the podcast is still going to be around, but we're going to add a lot more content to the YouTube channel. So check that out. And if you haven't gotten our newsletter yet, you're going to want to get in our newsletter. And if you haven't liked and subscribed to the show, please do. If you have a second, because it's maybe a holiday for you, go ahead and give us a little review. We're not going anywhere. We're still going to be back next year. And we're going to include all sorts of extra stuff over on YouTube and socials and in our newsletter. So make sure you're part of all of it. And then I can support you in 2025, because that's my resolution. All right. Thanks for listening. Until next time, stay curious.